Get Clucked Show is a High Noon production. Check out all the High Noon productions at highnoonpodcast.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get Clucked Show. I am your host, Blevins, and I want to talk today about a couple of things that I've gathered over the first, 20, 30, maybe even 30 hours of playing that I've had. I just wanted to kind of talk about some of the things I've noticed, some of the updates and patches that they've done, as well as some comments that some popular streamers have made in the past couple of days, and just kind of talk those out. And I want to get your feedback on it as well. Of course, you can always subscribe here on YouTube, follow at GetCluckedShow on Twitter, and leave comments and questions there. You can also email me at getcluckedshow@gmail.com. But of course, you know that. So I want to start off, and I want to I just got to get it out there. I hate the poison pistol so much. I hate basically everything about it. Even at Epic, and maybe Legendary's almost usable, but even at Epic, I think that weapon is completely and utterly unusable. Prove me wrong. Change my mind, please. Maybe I'm just using it wrong, but it ticks for so little. I get like burst after burst after burst on them, and it just doesn't matter. It never kills, and then I end up getting killed by literally any other weapon, unless I can dodge everything, at which point I might as well just use any other weapon than the poison pistol. So if you have a use case for it, maybe it's very niche. Maybe you have to have it in conjunction with other things. But in my mind right now, it's completely useless. It doesn't do enough damage. The ticks over time. Like if you're in a 1v1 fight and your opponent's at 1 health or your opponent's at full health, what's the difference if you die? There's no difference, except they maybe have a worse chance of surviving the next fight that they have, but like you don't care because you're dead. So at least in a solo situation, or even in most situations, not a great weapon, or I would say it's a useless weapon compared to literally any other weapon in the game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Maybe I'm just using it wrong. I'm perfectly willing to admit that, but I think it does need some sort of change to do something. Like maybe instead of shooting out like little bursts and doing nothing, maybe it does like I don't know. Maybe it does more of a damage over time, like something to change it. Maybe it's like a sludge launcher or something. So like it is very niche, where like it automatically will shoot sludge, and it's like very easy to hit, but it does very little damage, so you got to switch. Maybe that's what they're going for, and I'm just using it wrong. I don't know. I've very rarely ever been able to kill anyone with the poison pistol. So let me know what you think about that. Moving on. The last big patch they did added the elemental legendary weapons. And let me just pull up the Steam page right now. But the gist of it is the legendary weapons now have a chance to have additional abilities to them. There's a fire one, there's a frost one. I think there's one called Spirit, but man, why am I not doing this? There's one called like Spirit. I don't know exactly what they do. I'm looking that up right now. I should have done this beforehand, but maybe I'll edit this out. But it's basically instead of just having your regular legendary weapons, you now have the ability to get something. Your legendary weapons now have additional abilities. And they talked about this before, and having the legendary weapons be a little bit different between each other. I just want to give you my initial thoughts on them, having played them a couple of times, or more than a couple of times actually, for 2 days now. I really didn't notice much of a difference from the regular legendary weapons, with the exception of the slow one. The fire one, like, yeah, you do maybe like a little bit of extra damage, but it seemed like in most of the cases where you were going to get a kill, and where you weren't. With the exception of the slow one. I think the frost one, the one that slows, is absolutely the best one, especially on like a mage weapon, which like is very easy to hit one shot, and then once you hit the first, the other ones get significantly easier because they're slowed. And same with the engineer weapon as well. The warrior weapon and The or not yeah the warrior weapon doesn't really seem changed. Like, you're still doing a million damage and you're killing them in two chunks generally, maybe three if they're at high health. But generally two chunks. You're going to kill them. I guess the slow one is always the best, but the fire probably the worst. And I still don't know what the spirit one does. Maybe it adds health. I can't find the discussion. Sorry, but basically, people were complaining about this on Reddit. They're like, "Oh, change it back. Like, we don't need more randomness in the game." And it's like, this is such a small amount of randomness that it to me, from a just a strictly feel perspective, it changed the game almost none. I noticed very little difference in gameplay before and after they added the elemental weapons, which I guess in a way could be a bad thing because I don't necessarily want to add stuff and have it not feel impactful. But what it did do is it allows you now, if you already have a legendary weapon, to craft another one. So if you want to try to get your ice one, you can try to upgrade and get your ice one. What this allows you to do is if one person on a team has a ton of shards and an extra golden chicken trophy, you can now craft a legendary weapon for your friend, which you weren't able to do before. So that was an added thing. I mean, they could have done that without adding the elemental aspect to it, but I believe that in and of itself is enough. So now, like, it doesn't punish you as much if you just let one person farm for shards and get get the chicken trophy. So you don't necessarily get punished for that. So that's good. Even if they reverted the elemental weapons, which I honestly I don't feel that they need to. I like what's kind of boring about a game is when it's very easy to get max loot and best loadout. I've gotten it a couple times where I have gold and everything. I have my abilities golden. I have all of my armor golden, and my weapons are both legendary, and I don't want a different one. And then it's basically just going for kills, which is fun at the end of the game for sure. But it does I feel like the exploration of the game is the most fun part of it. So I like there being like a reason to hit another forge, a reason to go loot more. I don't want it to be like, oh well, in the early to mid game everyone's looted out and then just fighting. That's just a different game to me. So I do like the elemental weapons. I like the overall change to it. I think it's good. I think they can add more to it. I would almost like to see other legendary weapons for the classes, or maybe like legendary weapons that can only be built in forges but aren't class based. So like there's a chance you get like a rocket launcher or something, but you can never, like, a rocket launcher can't get thrown in from a drop or something, and there's no common rocket launcher. So something like that would be kind of cool, just to add more functionality to the forges, which I like a lot. Or maybe they add a different point of interest that's not a forge, it's something completely different. I think that would be really cool. Speaking of the drops, one thing I wanted to note that I noticed on both sides of it, good and bad actually, are early weapon drops. I don't know the exact timing or the exact structure behind the weapon drops, the little blimp that drops your legendary chest. I don't know what it is, but I've seen them extremely early, like within the first couple minutes of the game, just randomly dropping. I think my gut says that's really bad, and I've had it happen on both sides. I've had I'm in the early game looting. I've got like gray items, and my opponent has a golden legendary shotgun. Like, hello, that's adding a variance to the game very early that puts someone in puts one person specifically in an extreme advantage very early in the game. That's not what you want to see in the early game, I don't think. Now, I think there should probably be some sort of timer. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 3, whatever. They can choose an arbitrary time, but like when people are still dropping in, And like in the first, like before anyone's hit a forge, if you've already got a legendary shotgun or a legendary sword, it was a legendary sword, I think. I just get one shot like before I get armor. Like that's not fun. That's not it's exciting for exactly one person, and it doesn't feel fair. Like I said, I've been on both sides where like I'm looting. I don't even have a piece of armor, and a legendary weapon drops right on me, and they drop randomly too. Like if they, maybe if they're in I don't know how you would like gate it, but like maybe you have to have like a certain number of shards to open up the chest or something like that. That would be actually maybe kind of cool. You have to have like, 100 shards to open up the chest, and maybe it has more stuff in it, or maybe it gives you the shards back, but you can't open it unless you have 100 shards. Just so like, it. Yes, I get it. It's cool if you are, it gives you something to go over. It's another point of interest, which I like, but it's something that anyone can get very early on, and it's random. Maybe if the legendary chests were always in the same place and everyone could see them, okay. Maybe if there's a couple around the map, then it's another point of interest that you fight over. Here, it's like there's no fighting over it. You just get lucky or you don't, and then you get screwed over or you don't, or you get rewarded. So, I think that's a low fun piece of variance. That they could easily change. Like you could easily just make it. They only drop in after 3 minutes or 4 minutes or something. So I'm not really worried about that. And honestly, it's happened so infrequently. I don't even think that they drop that early every time. But I've had it happen at least 3 times or 4 times maybe, and it's just it's fun when you get it. But I know, being on the other side, that it's very, very unfun when it's not. Okay. The other big piece of kind of big talking point on Reddit right now is the heirloom rifle, and to a lesser extent the revolver and slug rifle changes. So if you're brand new here, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, or if you haven't been playing since last week. Heirloom rifle and revolver used to be hit scan weapons, which if basically there's 2 different types of weapon in games. One is called a projectile, which is basically what all of the weapons in the game are now, where like you shoot out, like think of an arrow, you shoot an arrow, and then the arrow has like an actual travel time and speed, and like you can see it go out, and you have to like lead your target on basically. And then there's hit scan, which is basically you click and then the bullet goes where you click instantaneously. So the heirloom rifle and the revolver used to both be hit scan, and then they, in the last patch with the elemental weapons, changed them both to fast moving projectiles. I don't really know why. I mean, they've been tinkering with the heirloom rifle since the game was released in like day one. It has gone from excessively accurate hit scan, powerful damage dealing weapon to excessively accurate, powerful hit scan weapon that does slightly less damage. And then they've tinkered around with it a lot. And I think honestly, the heirloom rifle and the revolver, in my opinion, are both in a good spot. I don't necessarily I'd like there to be at least like maybe a hit scan weapon, but it doesn't have to be the heirloom rifle. It doesn't have to be like the heirloom rifle was before. And honestly, there doesn't really need to be a hit scan weapon in the game necessarily. It's not like that makes or breaks a game. If they don't want them to be in the game for whatever reason, that's fine. I think that if there's a hit scan weapon in the game, it forces you basically to use that weapon, which I don't think that they want. I don't think that they want any weapon to be a must pick. I think they want the weapons to be different and similarly powered, but in different ways enough so that you can pick whatever weapon that you like and that fits your play style and use it to a similar amount of success as any other weapon in the game. Now, my one kind of issue with really the heirloom rifle, the revolver, and the slug rifle is that they all feel very similar right now. The heirloom rifle and the slug rifle, I believe, at the same rarity, do the same amount of damage. The heirloom rifle shoots faster and has a higher clip size, I believe, to the slug rifle. And the slug rifle, in my eyes, the slug rifle is just a worse version of the heirloom rifle, which I don't think that they want. think you either need to make the slug rifle do more damage, which they might have. I don't have the stats in front of me, so if I'm wrong, disregard that statement. But they feel the same, and the heirloom rifle just feels better. Now, I think that they can make the heirloom rifle more like a not a machine gun, like an assault rifle where it shoots fast but does less damage, and the slug rifle is maybe more of a hard hitting rifle that shoots slower but hits harder. Like, I think they need to differentiate that and push that difference a little bit more. And the revolver feels very similar to the slug rifle, because it might be less accurate, but like it feels the same because they're both projectiles. They both move at about the same speed, and they both do about the same damage. So I think they need to find a way to differentiate those items a little bit more. But honestly, like with in hit scan or not, like I kind of like it not being hit scan, only because I don't like, before I felt obligated to use the heirloom rifle just because it was so much better than the other weapons, and I don't want that to be the case. Like, I want to like be able to use whatever weapon I want and not feel like I'm at a huge disadvantage for not doing it, which I think the heirloom rifle, at least in some of its previous iterations, it was just like you need to be using an heirloom rifle or else you're doing it wrong. It kind of feels that way for the shotgun right now, almost, but I think that's might be personal bias for me just because I'm better with the shotgun than other weapons. I don't think I think the shotgun recent nerfs to accuracy were the kind of put it in a good spot. So in terms of power level, I think the weapons are in a very good spot. I just think that the heirloom rifle, the slug rifle, and the revolver just need to be differentiated from each other a little bit more, and we'll be in a good spot. Another thing I want to talk about was Shroud had some comments for the game. I just want to comment on his comments of the game. And for those of you who don't know, Shroud is a popular PlayerUnknown Battleground streamer. He used to be a pro Counter-Strike player for Cloud9. I think he's just a streamer now for Cloud9. But he was playing Realm Royale the other day, and he had a couple of comments. He said he thinks that the characters should have more health and more abilities. And the more health thing, I don't necessarily think that that's where you want to go with it. I guess I kind of see it because it would differentiate the game even more from PUBG and Fortnite, where like in those games you have very quick engagements. The fights last relatively quickly, and then you die and you move on. It's kind of how it feels in this game. But a little bit slower. And maybe the reason he wants to do that is because like you're just kind of like the other games, but just a little bit slower. So like differentiate that even more, which I could see. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. The problem, and it gives you more chance. Like if you have more abilities and more health, it gives more chance for better players to outplay worse players, which I think is fine. I think there's a fine line to be walked down that. I don't want the game to be like huge health pools and a million abilities where like you have a fully decked out like World of Warcraft character, doing crazy things and having 10-minute 1v1 battles. That's just not the game I want to play. That just pushes it almost out of the Battle Royale genre. One of the charming things about the Battle Royale genre is that you go into the rounds quick. You get in, you kill, you die, you get in, you kill, you die, you get in, you kill. Maybe you last a little bit longer, you win. A win is what, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe for one round if you win. 20 at max, I think. That's kind of what I want. I don't want 40-minute rounds, because those games, they just, like, if you spend 30 minutes in a round and then lose in 8th place, it's like you feel like you wasted your time. So I want the game to stay quick. I don't necessarily disagree with what he said about more health, and I think more abilities is great. I don't know if he meant more like more choices of abilities, which I 100% want. Like I'd love each class to have 10 different abilities you could get. I think that'd be great. Or he just wants more ability slots, so like you can have 3 abilities. I don't necessarily want that, because then your early game can get messed up. We're like, oh, I've got 4 abilities and you have none. Okay, you're just dead. It kind of feels like that with Mage. With like if you have the double damage, if you have both damage spells early in a shotgun, you are so strong early game. You just melt everyone instantly in the early game. So I think overall I probably agree with his comments, but depending on what he specifically means, I think they need to be careful about making the health pools so much higher. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. I think more ability choices, 100%. They're going to do that. I would put money on it that they're going to add more ability choices to that, and maybe even like differentiation of abilities. Like maybe the legendary abilities can have some elemental effects or something like that. I'm perfectly fine with that as well. Or maybe there's like some cross class, abilities as well. I think that expanding on that is going to be great. Last thing I want to talk about here are the tournaments. We are already starting to see tournaments pop up, which is awesome. I think this game has esports in mind. Obviously, Hi-Rez is very in tune with their games being esports titles, with Smite and Paladins both having their own respective pro leagues. So I think Realm Royale probably no different there. 2 different tournament series. One official tournament that is definitely happening. It's officially happening. It's not official through Smite. Is UMG Gaming is doing a tournament. They've got tournaments up now. They've got some 2v2 tournaments here. They've got a couple 2v2 tournaments that you can join. $100. They're just $100 community 2v2 Realm Royale tournaments. Not sure how they're going to be run. I'm actually going to try, if I can, to play in it, or at least get some friends to play in it. It's happening tonight as of the recording of this video, so I will report back to you in the next episode on how that went, if any of my friends joined or if I joined, just to see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to be casted or what, but I would love to be able to cast some of these tournaments for sure. So if anyone's listening that is looking to do a tournament and looking for a caster, hit me up at _Blevins, or at you can just email the show, GetCluckedShow@gmail.com, or tweet at us at GetCluckedShow on Twitter. Let me know. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. I expect there to be more Realm Royale tournaments from other places shortly. I'll leave it at that. But and then there was a tweet. Let me see who it was from. Oh, it's from Hi-Rez Stu, who is he is the president of Hi-Rez Studios. So take this, for what it's worth. He says, retweet if you'd like to see $1 million Realm Royale tournament during HRX, which I believe is Hi-Rez Expo at DreamHack Atlanta. I'm trying to convince my boss. Yeah, that would be awesome. So maybe there's going to be a $1 million Realm Royale tournament. That tweet, by the way, has, and he says retweet if you'd like to see. That tweet, by the way, currently has 1,794 tweets. Let's make it 1,795 retweets. It's up to 1.8K. Okay, so definitely a lot of retweets there from the president of Hi-Rez Studios. So I don't know if that's like tongue-in-cheek, like is he the boss? I don't know the inner workings of Hi-Rez, but that would be awesome to see. A big Realm Royale tournament like that would definitely get even more traction for this already pretty popular game. I want to see more tournaments come up. My background is in esports with High Noon Podcast. I'm following Overwatch League, so I'd love to see more tournaments. I'd love to get involved with tournaments. I like to play in tournaments, cast them, all that stuff for Realm Royale. But that is going to be it, guys. Yeah, that's this one. It's a quick one here. I'm going to try to do these maybe a little bit quick until we figure out what I'm going to do here for the regular structure. So I'm just going to be putting these videos out on YouTube as I get enough content to talk about. I'd like them to be right around here, the 15 to 30 minute mark. Ideally, I don't necessarily want hour-long shows for all of them. But let me know what you thought in the comments below. Comment on YouTube. Tweet at us at GetCluckedShow on Twitter. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Every like, retweet, comment, subscription, all that stuff is super helpful in the early phases for sure. On Reddit too, I post these on Reddit. If you can just give it an upvote, comment on there, all that stuff is going to be super helpful. But that is going to be it, guys. Until the next time I see you, make sure you cluck them up, man. Cluck them up. Bye-bye.